Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the November 5th, 2015 regular meeting of the Milford Board of Aldermen. Please join me as we salute our flag, and we'd like to have a moment of silence for our veterans, both here and abroad, for all they've done for this country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Secretary, will you please take the roll?
Alderman Anderson.
Madam Secretary, Alderman Anderson would like to be excused.
Madam Secretary, I believe he's going to be late for this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Beer.
Oh, excuse me, Madam Secretary. Alderman Beer is on a well-deserved family vacation, so he would like to be excused. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Giannatasio. Alderman Casey.
Here.
Alderman Fontana. Here. Alderman Gurman.
Here.
Alderman Giannatasio.
Here.
Alderman Golden. Here. Alderman Hardiman. Here. Alderman Kubek. Alderman Shaw. Here. Alderman Smith.
Madam Secretary, Alderman Smith would like to get excused as well, work-related.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alderman Stanford. Alderman Veccarelli. Here. Alderman Vitro.
Here.
Alderman Vitale. 12 present, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next portion of our meeting is devoted to public comment. Statements are limited to the legislative function of the Board of Aldermen. The time limit granted to each speaker should be 3 minutes. Residents, taxpayers, and electors may address the board at this time. The board encourages speakers not to express derogatory, insensitive, or offensive statements, or to engage in personal attacks against individuals. In order to allow everyone an opportunity to speak, I'd ask that everyone please limit their comments to 3 minutes. Anyone like to address the board, they could step up to the podium at this time.
How you doing? My name is Bill Colombo. I own some property on Roselle Street in Ern Ave. I went to the Sewer Commission meeting early February, see if we can get some sewers down there, and they said to get a petition going, and me and Sharon Fisk did that, and we have like every neighbor in the neighborhood there signed it, and I've been asking and trying to see what's going on, if anything's going to go forward with this, and I haven't heard anything, so I'm just trying to get a little information. Sorry? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else would like to address the board at this time? Seeing none, Alderman Veccarelli, agenda item number 3, consideration of minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Aldermen held on October 5th, 2015.
You heard the reading of the minutes. Anyone has any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item number 4, there was no special meeting. Item number 5 on the agenda, the chairman's report. I'd like to remind everyone that this coming Sunday, November 8th, is Veterans Day parade. The parade steps off at 2 o'clock. They all asking those that want to march in the parade to try to get there about 1 o'clock. And also, I'd like to take this time to thank each and every member of the Board of Aldermen that have served the last 2 years. It was an honor and a pleasure to serve with you. And I know we've had some good times and some tough times, but we've got the job done. And I think everyone has learned a lot, and I'm glad we're going to be moving forward. Once again, congratulate everyone for the last 2 years they have served, and I'm going to congratulate the ones that have just been newly elected. Alderman Vaccarelli. Agenda item number 6, Mayor's report and recommendations. Is there a report from the Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Happy Veterans Day, especially to the veterans in this auditorium. I know Chairman Vitro and Alderman Hardiman have served our country. So a very special thank you to all of those veterans. Our parade kicks off this Sunday, 2 o'clock. Steps off from the Wasson Field parking lot. So I encourage everybody to come and celebrate, again, our veterans and our servicemen and women. As Chairman Vitro mentioned, this is the last meeting of the 2013-2015 Board of Aldermen. So a very special thank you to all of the 15 aldermen who have served over the past 2 years. Thank you for your service. Thank you for the exemplary way that you represented your aldermanic districts. There have been times where we've disagreed. There's been disagreement on this board, but one place there has been no disagreement is the commitment that you've all shown to this community. So thank you very much for that. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I respectfully request your consideration and action on those items listed in the agenda, 8A through 8O. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Agenda item number 7, there is no unfinished business. Under agenda item number 8, moving on to new business, Alderman Vaccarelli. Agenda item number 8A.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request for the appointment of John Nevin of 292 Melba Street from an alternate to a regular member of the Harbor Management Commission to fill a vacancy, term to expire 12/31/19.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vaccarelli, agenda item 8B.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request for the appointment of George Hounahan, 88 West Main Street, as a member of the Economic Development Commission to fill a vacancy, term to expire 12/31/17.
The motion, we have a motion and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. At this time, I'd like to invite our newly appointed commissioners to come forward to be sworn in. Come to the front of the auditorium for the city clerk to swear you in.
Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or sincerely affirm that you will carry out your duties and responsibilities on your prospective board to the best of your ability or under the pain or penalty for perjury or false statement? Yes, I do. Okay.
Alderman Vaccarelli, agenda item 8C.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the request authorizing the demolition and the removal of one residential structure and accessory structures, if any, located at 810 West River Street, and to authorize the mayor, public works director, and/or the city attorney's office to take all steps necessary, including signing all documents to effectuate said demolition.
The motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I see Steve Johnson in the audience. If you could approach the podium, I do have a question. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
My question is, in your submission here, you state that you considered other options for this garage that you discussed openly with Chris Saley in your committee. And I'm just curious, what other options were on the table other than the demolition?
Well, we had considered converting that garage or repairing it and converting it the way that it's a block construction, of possibly converting it, turning into like a pavilion type of facility. The concern that had would be that it would impact the amount of available parking because of the adjacent wetlands to the area, and that in talking to the police, it would still also provide a potential security concern on the back side of the property, so it wasn't somebody could park around the back of the building and you couldn't see them from the street in terms of vandalism or anything like that. The other thing is in terms of a pavilion, we didn't feel in terms of the use that we would really get the benefit of it. And we had also considered it in talking with Public Works Director, Mr. Saley, of also using it for a storage type facility. Again, fixing it up but securing it. But again, we just are trying to offset the benefit of that building once we versus the ability to create more effective parking on a minimal basis. We felt that it would be better to promote safe public access and open that area up.
Okay, so the intent right now is just to use it, to leave it as open space. Once it's demolished, there's not going to be any reason to go there other than, I don't know how this property is being utilized presently.
Yeah, right now the property really, it consists of 3 parcels. These buildings are in one of the 3 parcels, a 10-acre parcel that the city acquired in 1998, I believe, and the entire property is about 100 acres in total. And so right now it's being used as really as passive open space use. It is used by people in terms of walking, and of course there's in terms of an upland forest type area, it is pretty unique. Some of the aldermen I know have been up and walked the site. And I would encourage anybody, if they're interested in taking a look at it, I'd be happy to meet them up there.
I'm interested to know, Steve, being that you're the open space director, is that your position now? That if there's 100 acres there and you're concerned about parking, why isn't it all looked at as one parcel? And
what is looked at as one parcel.
And there's still an issue with parking?
Well, the only access to that property is at the 810 West River Street, because the rest of the parcel is either very steep rock outcroppings along West River Street, or it's surrounded by residents, or wetlands. So the only possible entrance into the whole property is at that one location, at that where that garage and residence is.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Alderman Shaw.
Don't go away, Mr. Johnson, I'm sorry. I just have a quick, and I hadn't noticed this. What's the cost for demolition? We're going to undertake the demolition, and I noticed that and maybe this is to the mayor or finance, we're going to use this with blighted funds?
Yeah, I defer to you, Mr. Mayor.
we have an account set up where monies that we collect from blight liens, we utilize to take down dangerous buildings as well as demolition. However, we don't know the exact costs until either we put it out to bid if the anticipated amount is over $25,000 or get estimates to take these properties down. So we don't have those costs yet, and we can't, until we get authorization to start the process, we can't get those.
But if I can just follow up, we're anticipating that this will be covered through the funds that we've collected through the blight ordinance.
Yes, and part of the process, part of the expenses, we have to do an environmental analysis before we take down a lot of these properties. Some of these buildings, some of these structures are older. If they have things like asbestos or they have lead paint, obviously the cost for the demolition goes up to some degree. So those costs, we don't necessarily know until we put it out to bid or we get estimates for it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you or to whomever can answer the question. Mr. Mayor, you had indicated the fact that through blighted funds, the demolitions will be taken care of. Is that just for city-owned properties? And the other part would be for those demolitions that we take care of through other means, do we go back after the whomever and collect that money? And what is the average that we've been spending on demolition of a property?
Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Vitale. You may recall a couple of years ago, there was a structure, it was a house that was blighted and there was hoarding going on. The house needed to be taken down, and we came before this board seeking funds to outlay for the cost of demolition. At that time, the discussion started, I think, in my office and the mayor's office about creating a fund where we took monies received from blight liens and set aside money as opposed to coming back to you and taking from the general fund. So there is an account with money where we've received blight lien fines and we've put it in that. It's not limited to city-owned properties, but in instances where we use monies from that account to demo, we will place a lien on the property to recoup those funds and replenish the account from which we've drawn.
Thank you. And just what is the average, I mean, other than you're really going out of whack with lead paint, et cetera, et cetera?
I would have to say it's around 25,000 is probably a good barometer for a single-family structure. We've seen them below and above. We recently took down a house, and I think it was closer to 32,000, but that was under the assumption, I think the term of art is that we had to take it down hot. We did not have the opportunity to do an environmental analysis, determine if there was any lead paint and such, so the price is higher because it's a more difficult job for the demolition contractor. If we have the knowledge of what's existing or not existing, the prices, and we can put that in our bid package, the prices will come down.
Just to follow up on that, I don't know if it was ever discussed or prior to this, but do we have, as a department, Public Works, the ability to demo these properties?
Our Public Works Department is here, but there are special licenses that demolition companies have to take down certain materials and dispose of certain materials, but I'll let our Public Works Director give you more background.
Yeah, Alderman Vitale, you have to be licensed and bonded to do demo work. The city is not. We're in the process of getting another building that we're going to come before you guys this evening.
Wouldn't it be to our advantage to get bonded and do whatever's necessary, or what?
Absolutely not. It's
Why not?
too much liability involved, too much insurance. The companies that are doing demo work, that's usually their forte, their expertise.
But could there be a category of something easy to demo as opposed to something more difficult in getting out and getting an outside person? Because we have liabilities all over the place. You as a director, you as a Public Works, and we as a city.
it would be my recommendation not to ever do that type of work in-house. I mean, we're doing other work in-house, replacing sewer lines, doing stuff like that, but demo work, number one, you have to have the license, you have to have the experience. That would not be something I would recommend us doing.
Thank you. Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you to the director. You know, based on what Alderman Vitale said, you know, this is only a garage. I mean, this is light demo. This isn't like a major structure. I don't know if there's any utilities hooked up to it or not, but I understand your point. Yeah. But I think the point is that if we can do a light demo and, you know, not spend $20,000, $25,000, and we have the roll-off truck, we have the containers, we certainly have, you know, the loader. You know, I don't think that's a bad point. I think that should be investigated, and if it is light demo and it's a small structure like a garage, I mean, come on, this is nothing. I mean, you could just, you know, hit it with one shot, it's going to fall down, and you know, you just pay for the dump fees and be done with it. Yeah. I think Alderman Vitale made a good point.
The things that we can do and that we are doing, we'll do all the paperwork part of it. I just want to make sure I'm clear. I assume you guys have the pictures. It's actually two structures. The garage itself, you're correct, Alderman Giannattasio, it's a very small structure, but there's a home involved that's been in disrepair for a number of years. It's with a full basement. It's a cape. It's very much overgrown. So that would be the concern. But what we're going to do is we'll do all the legwork to hopefully get a better price. We're going to, like what we're doing on High Street, we're sending out all the disconnects for all the utilities. We're disconnecting the sewer and the water. We're doing all that work. So the contractor that comes in is only going to demo the building. That's going to be their core business. So they're not going to have the ancillary stuff. And I believe that will be savings to the city.
Any more discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8C. D.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request authorizing the demolition and removal of multiple use structures and accessory structures, if any, located at 145 High Street, including clearing the vacant lot located at 0 Railroad Ave, and to authorize the mayor, the public works director, and our city attorney's office to take all steps necessary, including signing all documents to effectuate said demolition.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the mayor, I believe this is the newer property that the homeowner approached the city, or is this the demo that we're doing on one of the existing properties that was part of the $5 million bonding project?
Yeah, this is part of there are 4 properties that we acquired through a state grant, and this is the property all the way towards High Street. In that red structure, there's, I think, at one point a bunch of buildings that were scabbed together with breezeways, and I've walked the property. It is definitely coming down, but this eventually will be part of the city's new parking, and hopefully within the next 3 months, not only will the building be taken down, but the site work will be completed so that we'll be able to have an additional 100 spaces for downtown, parking spaces for downtown.
And what will the parking consist of? I know it's not the structure. Is it just going to be graveled, like leveled, graded, drainage, and crushed stone, or is it going to be paved?
We are still investigating that. Again, within the next 3 months, we will have parking there. It's either going to be, as you mentioned, either process, or we may pave it in-house using our asphalt recycler. That may be something that we utilize because it will be free. So it may be a paved surface with asphalt, recycled asphalt, or it may be process. We are still determining that with our Public Works Department.
Okay, if you need any asphalt, I know there's a big pile down at Eisenhower that might help out with the cause. Thank you.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the mayor. Mr. Mayor, just to stay on that point of the parking, are we turning that over to a parking kind of organization that will charge and do all that stuff with it? Or are we going to have, like other cities, that you go to a kiosk and you go and park your car and get your ticket and put it on your windshield, and therefore maybe we don't have to have an intermediary in that process?
For the next 3 months, everything's going to stay status quo. After that, once we develop the approximate 100 new spots, we are going to continue with our parking regulations and adopt likely new ordinances as well. So that's going to come in front of this board. Within the next month, we're going to appoint a development committee to oversee that whole site, the 4 parcels, and hopefully within 3 years, there will be actual movement to really develop that not only into additional parking, but also into a hub for economic development activity with a site that's dedicated to an anchor store.
I just hope that we have an open-mindedness to it so that we can maybe eliminate that second party and take it on ourselves with a kiosk kind of thing, so this will all be open for discussion.
All the city departments are going to be involved in this, specifically our police department that oversees parking enforcement. That's why your board will come in, the ordinance board and the Board of Aldermen, to work with the police department's traffic division to make sure that whatever we adopt is going to work well, because again, whatever we implement, there's going to be an enforcement mechanism that needs to be workable.
Thank you.
Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to, I guess, the mayor. Where would the funds be coming for this demolition for this? This isn't part of the blight, so would it be coming from the grant, the $5 million grant, or is this strictly city funds coming from somewhere else?
A couple months ago, your board established a fund to almost like an enterprise fund to maintain this property. However, the demolition for this will be coming out of the blight fund because it is a demolition of a building. But all other site work, all other maintenance to this property will come out of the designated fund that your board established a few months ago, so that fees that are collected on the site, rents that are collected, we've already started collecting rents from the property all the way on River Street. That will go into a reserve fund to maintain that property, hopefully generate some revenue for the city, and so that we could develop that parcel.
Alderman Shaw.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't want to belabor this, but back to the blight fund. Will this be reimbursed after through funding for this demo? Because this is not a blighted property. We're doing this, or
this is a distressed property.
But that's not why we're demolishing it.
That's not why we're demolishing it. We can reimburse the blight fund. Yes, we can. Has that been part of the discussions? I mean, the blight fund is for demolition. So all buildings that we've had demolished, at least within the last 4 years, have come out of this fund that we've identified. However, we did also make the commitment that the work done on the site, would pay for itself in terms of the maintenance. So we could reimburse it. It is a distressed. In addition to that, not being part of the plan, it is a distressed structure that does need to come down.
I thank you. I guess my own view would be to have that reimbursed, but that's for me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Santana.
Fontana.
Wow. We're leaving us tonight and I already got your name spelled. Wow. Doesn't take long.
Maybe I'll just bypass you. No. Through you to the mayor. How much is in the blighted funds account? How much money?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Fontana. As of July, when I took a snapshot, there was about $177,000 in that fund.
Just a follow-up to that. Mr. Mayor, you had mentioned we keep replenishing it. Could this fund run out somehow? And if it did, where would we get the funds for if there's multiple demos going on at the same time?
It could theoretically run out. However, every time that there's a blight lien recouped, this fund is supplemented. So it's, at this point, a self-sustaining fund. I don't foresee that, at least in the near future, this fund will run out. If it does, we would come back to your board if there were structures that needed to be demolished or dangerous buildings that needed to be taken down.
What is the average time of the money being recouped?
It's all over the place, like the proverbial dog's dinner. It comes in spurts, depending on when court cases make their way through the system, depending on when, a lot of these properties go to foreclosure, and there's foreclosure sales, and when those land transactions finally occur, then the city gets the lien that it places on the property. I can't give you an estimated time because, there are some months where there's no revenue coming in, and then there's some weeks where there's several different sources of revenue coming into this fund.
Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8E.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the request authorizing the demolition and removal of 2 residential structures, accessory structures, and contents therein, if any, located at 32 and 34 James Street, and to authorize the mayor, public works director, and/or city attorney's office to take all steps necessary, including signing all documents to effectuate said demolition.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Giannatasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Director Saley, way out there in the back. I have a question for you. It says contents. If, as we know, the city does not do demo work, we're not in the demo business, but when we acquire a property and there happens to be internal contents in the house, in this situation, who removes that? Does the Public Works remove it, or is that part of the demo?
We can do either or. Recently, we've taken household stuff out of a house to get it out of the building for its demo or for other work. So we can do either or. It all depends. I think there was also a house on Ocean Ave that was in such disrepair because of the hoarding component that they left everything inside and just demoed the house as an existing house.
Okay, so to your point before, licensed, permitting, trained, if our guys are in a house, they could be subject to mold, okay? They're taking out furniture. I don't know, do they wear back braces? Do they wear masks? They're loading a can or they're loading a dump truck. I mean, they're lifting. So, I have some concerns with that. And I just would like to know how that's handled, if it's professionally jobbed out or through your discretion, it sounds like.
I think it's a great question. The example, and we'll answer it, is Ocean Ave was the example. That house was a hazard. No one went into the house. None of our employees went into the house. We did cut the lawn. Attorney Bertram asked us to maintain the lawn because it was overgrown by about 3 feet. We went in there and cut the lawn and cleaned that up. We cleaned up everything outside, but we went nowhere near the house. Other structures where it's appropriate, Joe Griffith and myself with Deepa Joseph or any other appropriate person.
Before I lose my train of thought, I do have a question to Attorney Bertram as far as cutting the lawn. Now, do we bill back the owner of the property through a lien the cost to cut the grass, to maintain it?
Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Giannatasio, we have. If it's one cut, no, but we have.
So what do we get in a cut these days? No, but thank you for answering the question. And thank you, Director Saley. I just wanted, to get a little more information on that. But thanks. It's good to know, though, that we're getting paid.
Alderman Shaw.
Thank you, Chairman, through you. I guess let's go to the city attorney. This is a blight lien, and there are property taxes that were owed to the city. I guess my thing is twofold. What is the property taxes owed in default? But also, I guess, what do you imagine we'll get for the property as far as the city on a sale? Have you, or the assessed value, I should say?
Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Shaw, I'm not going to have answers for you. I don't know. I can find out the tax liens, but honestly, this property has been a constant thorn in my office's side for the last several years after the storms, but it's been vacant. The owner's son has been in and out, but the neighbors have been very upset and very vocal and very communicative with my office in terms of getting us to do something. I inherited a blight lien when I came into my position. The foreclosure action, like court cases took a long time because we couldn't find the owner's heirs to serve them. That took significant time. In terms of the property, you'll note the next agenda item asks for the, I believe, the authorization to sell. What its value? I know that I've been approached by neighbors who want to buy it. They want to buy it for open space. They don't want to build on that. Clearly, anything in that area, given its location, is going to have to be elevated. We don't have a price. I mean, we have an idea in terms of what the property of the land is. I can get that to you.
Well, apparently I jumped the gun, so I'll let it move on. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8F.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request per the attached recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Board dated October 8th, 2015 for the sale of 32 and 34 James Street, and to authorize the mayor and the city attorney's office to take all steps necessary, including signing all documents to effectuate said sale.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Alderman Vitale.
Through you to whomever. The sale of, and that's the reason for that, we getting into the real estate business here, or what is happening here?
This, again, is the same property that we talked about in the last agenda item. We took this property through foreclosure for a blight lien, but there's also a tax lien associated with it. As we have done in previous properties, we put it out for auction, for sale, and hoping to recoup our liens.
But if we've got an easy sale because people over there, we're going to try to address that people around there want to, the attorney, you did indicate the fact that there were people in the area that were interested in that to keep it open space, or did I mishear you?
Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Vitale, yes, I have received calls about, when is this city, what's the city going to do with it? Are they going to sell it? I've said that we're going to seek authority from this board to sell it, and if we do, then we will do like we've done with others, like an Ardmore, and it will be via auction, public auction. It will be noticed both on the property, in local newspapers. There'll be an auction date, and it'll go to public auction.
Thank you.
Alderman Shaw.
Thank you, Chairman Vitrode. I am going to follow up a little bit. Is there a minimum bid that the city would accept for this property? Does the city entertain that when going to auction? I've read the auction notices.
Historically, Mr. Chair, through you, This board has either set a minimum bid or not set a minimum bid. When they've not, there's been no restrictions in terms of what this board has said. So there is the absence of that. This board certainly could condition its approval in public auction and set a minimum price.
If you would like, we could also bring this item back to the board afterwards to approve the final sale if that's something that you...
Mr. Chairman, can I just follow up? And I'll tell you the reason I'm asking. I'm unaware of the property very much. I was unaware that the homeowners had expressed an interest in this as well. But it leads to a question I have about development in that area. And I know the homes will be mitigated. That's anybody who wants to build that will have to meet codes. But just in generations going forward, the issues of silver sands, and particularly on James and those, of roads being impassable. So I guess I'm doing, what's the value to the city in terms of taxes that it will be able to get, plus the sale of it, as opposed to leaving it open space, which is city maintenance, but which follows a little bit of what the NFIP insurance through and federal government has been advocating in that area towards acquisition. So that's why I was leading to these questions. So I'll just put it out there. Thank you.
Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the mayor or the city attorney, I've raised this concern before, and we never have an appraised value of what the property is that we're selling, so we never really know at this point in time what it's worth. And I think for informational purposes, it should be part of the agenda. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I remember bringing this up at one time, and the answer that I got was, oh, well, you can go online and you can, go to a website. But I feel like, if we're talking about selling something and it's property and the city's going to make money, we should know how much it's worth. So do you have any idea what this property is worth?
Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Giannattasio, let me just preface it, my response two ways. One, we can certainly make the appraisal part of the package on items that we foreclosed on. We can submit the appraisal that accompanied the foreclosure action. I don't think it's in terms of whether or not the appraisal is stale or not, and timeliness will provide you with that. In terms of the value, you've got different, especially with these beachfront properties, you've got different considerations. You have an appraised value, but what it doesn't consider at a public auction is is the value, hypothetically, the value is $100,000. Apologies. But whatever needs to be built has to be elevated. It's in a flood zone of that nature. Then any prospective bidders at the public auction are going to discount the fair market value. So in this board, in terms of determining what they expect or to see in terms of an auction price, I don't want you to be misled by the appraisal as opposed to what someone would actually buy the property for, given the long road ahead to develop it.
I understand your point. Thank you.
Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I know we talked about this before. Should we sell a house or sell the property with the house on it and let the new homeowner tear it down? Or do we pay that cost, in this case, roughly $25,000? So if we have that cost of $25,000 plus all the lien costs, plus all the taxes, plus all the attorney fees, and you're probably at $75,000, $80,000, $100,000.
There's no attorney's fees, just my salary.
Oh, thank you. But would it make sense to sell it with a house on it and let the new homeowner worry about it?
Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Gurman, it's a fair question, and I think that the decision by this board to make is what it believes to be more marketable in terms of what would get a better price. The lot free of improvements that are beyond repair, or the lot without it. I understand there's arguments to be made, as you said, it's another cost for the city to bear before it sees a return.
How did it work out with Ardmore?
We'll find out on November 21st, public auction.
Oh, is that when the auction is?
Yes, but everybody that approached me about it has said that they think that the absence or the removal of the improvement was a plus.
Mr. Chairman, through you, the other consideration for this particular property is that it has been a blight and a scourge on the neighborhood for many years. The neighbors are very anxious to have this blight removed. It has to come down. This property has been deemed to be substantially damaged, more than 50% damaged through an SDE, which means that it has to be elevated. However, you cannot elevate this structure. It is so distressed that it would crumble. There's actually two structures that would crumble if they were elevated because, again, they're old and it's an old beach cottage that there's no way from an engineering perspective that you could actually raise it up. So this is a property that you have to demolish. Whoever bought the property would have to demolish. In some of the auctions that we've had, even the beachfront or the homes or properties that have been in the flood zone and that have been substantially damaged, they are able to be elevated because the structural integrity is fine to elevate. This is one where, again, it's this little cottage that there's no way you could elevate it.
Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Roll call vote, Madam Secretary.
Alderman Casey?
Yes.
Alderman Fontana? Alderman Gurman? Alderman Ginnitasio?
Excuse me, Madam Secretary, what am I?
As the motion was presented.
Oh, what? Yes, I vote yes.
Thank you. Alderman Golden?
Yes.
Alderman Hardiman? Alderman Kubek? Alderman Shaw? Alderman Stanford? Alderman Vecchiarelli? Alderman Vitro?
Yes.
Alderman Vitale? 11.
The vote was 11-1. In favor of the motion. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8G.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request for attached allocation number 3 for the golf course building improvements.
Do we have a second on that?
Yes.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Ginnitasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to have the golf course representatives come forward and give us a little background information on this transfer allocation.
Good evening. My name is Bill Healy. This is Dan Worrell. We're in the Golf Commission. And what we're doing is, or what we're requesting is an allocation transfer from the Golf Course Enterprise Fund into a Fund 40 account to renovate the existing clubhouse. We recently built a new maintenance building there, and the former maintenance area in the clubhouse is we're going to upgrade to usable space. We're going to go with LED lighting and energy efficient things there, improve the fire and burglar alarm system, and make use the funds for renovate the existing clubhouse into fully usable space. The building's almost 20 years old, and it's time for an upgrade on some of the things in the building. We're going to improve the bathrooms to water energy efficient fixtures and things like that.
Thank you. I would just want you to know that I do support this, and I'm in favor of upgrading the facility, and I can't believe it's already 20 years old.
Yeah, It's actually 18.
But I
close.
feel,
But what we're doing is also, this is, in essence, our funds. This is funds that are generated by the golf course into the enterprise fund. So it's not city funds. We're using our own money, transferring it from one fund to another fund to make these
right,
improvements.
I understand, but you still got to have our permission to spend
Correct.
your
We have
money.
to ask your permission to move
Yeah.
to
So
move our
we're-
money from point
I'm
A to
okay
point
with it, for the record, but I think it's important to keep up with it because there's a lot of people that go there and it's very busy, you know, throughout the season, and I think it sends a very good message when it's well maintained. Thank you.
No, as Alderman Giannattasio said, it's important if you have a structure to maintain it. There are several golf courses in the area, which I won't mention, that they get a allocation of funds and you go there and it looks like the building is 100 years old. So it's important to keep this golf course in great shape. As you know, we just repaired the roof there. We also put up a new maintenance building, and that gave us extra space in the back so we can make it a usable space for something, maybe a profitable spot, but it's additional space that needs to be taken care of since there were carts stored there, oil, gasoline, so we got it out of the building and moved it into a separate building. As Bill said, one of the big things we were working on is LED lighting, to save money on that. And of course the restrooms, et cetera. So the golf course is really in good shape and we like to keep it that way.
Thank you, Dan, for your comments. Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make a comment, and you kind of alluded on it, but I just started golfing down there the last 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and the place looks terrific. The greens are amazing. It's been really nice. And for $11, you can't beat it. So it's a great value for the city of Milford. Senior.
Any more discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Bill. At this point, I will entertain a motion to reorder the agenda to move item 14A, executive session, next on the agenda. Is there a motion to reorder the agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second? Motion is made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're in executive session.
Mr. Chairman, I think you have to also make a motion to go into executive session.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And Mr. Chairman, joining us in executive session will be the City Attorney, John Burcham, the City Public Works Director, Chris Saley, the City Wastewater Acting Superintendent, Ed Kozlowski, and myself.
That's sufficient.
Thank
you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, did we recognize why we're going into executive session? The reason for an emergency repairs to our sewer system?
Your discussion, 14A, discussion concerning pending claim related to a breach of bulkhead at Indian River Interceptor Project.
Oh, okay, all right. I'm on my way, thanks.
We are out of executive session, and we're going on to agenda item 8H. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the request for the attached allocation transfer number 4 for emergency repairs to the sewer system.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8I.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the request per the attached recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Board dated October 21st, 2015 for the acquisition of 60 Helwig Street, and to authorize the mayor and city attorney's office to take all steps necessary, including signing all documents to effectuate said acquisition.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Mayor Blake. Mayor Blake, what's the cost of this property?
This property, the contract is $253,000.
And this is coming out of which fund?
There are several different funds. One of the funds, we generate revenue from the lease of certain cell phone towers. For example, on the police station tower, emergency communications system, there are private cell phone companies that lease out space. We generate revenue, and that is one of the sources of this funding. Also, the fact that we have our generators available to go online during peak periods of time, that's another source of revenue that this is coming out of. I think the last major source of revenue is from LoSIP money, which is a state grant that we receive each year. So the vast majority of this is not taxpayer money. It's money that we've accrued from other sources.
Thank you.
Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. So we're spending a lot of money tonight. What's the purpose of this property?
Well, as you can see, there's two acquisitions. Both of them are adjacent to city existing property or open space, or the parcel that is under 8I is right across the street from Lisbon Landing Marina and right at the base of the main city parking area behind Armory Square. This would be, at a minimum, additional parking. If you look at the map or the aerial view that's in your packet, you see that it's surrounded by a triangle of city open space. That would be, once they are connected, available for some additional parking, really in an area that needs it, behind Colony Pizza and Citrus Restaurant and some of the other shops downtown. Up the street, northward, we obviously have that major parking acquisition that we have just acquired through that $5 million state grant. However, another section of downtown that requires parking is the area down by the boat, down by the marina and behind those shops. So this would add to that stock at some point.
Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8J.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request per the attached recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Board dated October 21st, 2015 for the acquisition of 159 High Street, and to authorize the mayor and city attorney's office to take all steps necessary, including signing all documents to effectuate said acquisition.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Mayor Blake. Mayor Blake, again, this property, can you share with us the cost of it, and is it being funded the same way as the last agenda item?
Yeah, the same funding mechanism. This is $250,000, and this piece of property is directly adjacent to the newly acquired parcels that run from High Street to River Street. This would open up the entrance to the High Street access point for this new parking acquisition that we're moving forward on.
So this property would probably be used sooner than the prior property that we just approved? This would be used relatively soon?
We are, within the next 3 months, developing this property, doing the initial site work. There's probably a 3-year period that we're going to be doing the master plan for these parcels, but there will be the initial site work that's going to be completed within the next 3 months.
Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8K.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request for the attached allocation transfer 5, purchase of 159 High Street and 60 Hellwig Street.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once again, to Mayor Blake. Now, this is adjoining, and is there a cost on this? Or is this just the, is there a cost on this 60 Hellwig Street?
This is the actual funding mechanism. So the first two were the transfers through 824. This is actually the funds that we just discussed. So this is the allocation transfer necessary for the costs associated with this.
Oh, okay, with both of them. All right. Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8L.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the request for the attached memorandum of understanding for mutual aid and surge capacity and public health preparedness, and to authorize the mayor and the director of health to take all steps necessary, including signing all documents to effectuate said memorandum of understanding.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8M.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request for the City of Milford to accept the attached CDBG DR planning grant for an in-depth study of coastal resiliency for Walnut and Wildermere Beach areas, and to authorize the mayor, the director of community development, director of public works, and/or the city attorney's office to take all steps necessary, including signing all documents, to effectuate said grant.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Casey.
Through you to, I guess, the mayor or Mr. Saley, if you could just explain the background with this grant and what it does, please.
Sure. We have both Chris Saley and Jenna Lessons who helped to write the grant. These next 3 agenda items were additional funds that were allocated through CDBG DR, and we received these 3 for these planning grant projects. The first one is for Walnut Beach, Wildermere Beach, to improve the coastal resiliency of those shoreline neighborhoods. And we can stop there and continue on after the next agenda items.
I just to follow up with that, I know there's some vocal, I guess, pressure to our vocal interest, I guess, to replace the sand and things like that around Wildermere Beach. Is this study, is this grant part of, is it going to like focus on that or address some of those issues that they've discussed?
Yeah, Alderman Casey, it's a grant working with John Rosenthal with the Department of Housing. He's been very helpful with the city in securing this money. It's a grant to harden and make the beach more resilient, both through hard infrastructure and green infrastructure. So it's really kind of a wide open canvas that we're looking at. Part of it will be dune restoration in some parts, working in Walnut Beach, but also beach renourishment, and then working along the areas from Walnut Beach all the way down to Wildermere. So it's really a blank canvas. We're gonna do an RFQ, a request for qualifications, hopefully pick a design team. There's a number of other grants in that area too, so hopefully they'll piggyback each other. And our goal is within a number of years to have a more secure beachfront.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Anderson.
Mr. Chairman, through you to the director. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening, Brett.
I think whether we talk about Walnut Beach, Wildermere Beach, in the case of agenda item 8M, or Crescent Beach, in the case of 8N, or Gulf Street and Welch's Point Road, it's the perfect opportunity to involve residents in the affected areas. So I wondered what the plans are to reach out to the neighborhoods, get them involved, get input in the planning process.
Well, I can speak for Crescent Beach and for Wildermere and Walnut Beach. We've been very active with talking to private homeowners along the beach, explaining to them what the city, state, and federal government is willing to do. Part of it is if there was to be funding available, this, just so people understand, this is for a design component. There's no construction involved with these monies. It's all a study / design, construction documents to give us an idea what to do. But part of this would be if we got to the point where we could actually replenish the beach down there, part of it would be people giving up some of their beach rights in order to have that happen, because federal dollars aren't going to be involved unless there's public access to the area.
And Mr. Chairman, to follow up, Chris also mentioned some of the other planning grants that we received. We're part of a multi-town $700,000 grant that the Nature Conservancy and an engineering firm are spearheading, and probably about a third of the cost component, believe it or not, is through a series of meetings for public outreach. There's going to be a huge public comment portion of that, and they're proposing to do the entire Milford coastline. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities over the next year for each of the shoreline neighborhoods to come out and give us advice as to the historical narrative of what's happened over the course of the last 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, how the coastline has changed, how the erosion has occurred, because we do need that historical background. It's part of what we need to take into account when we redesign, when we harden our infrastructure, when we make the coastline resilient, because those anecdotal stories are very important.
So, Mr. Chairman, through you.
Alderman Anderson.
I want to thank the mayor for sharing that information, but does that mean that there will be a series of public meetings held here in Milford for public input on all of these projects?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the mayor, Mr. Saley. You know, we always seem to be getting money for the preliminary kinds of things that are happening for engineering and for talking and all of this. But in the ensuing steps, when it really means taking shovel to the ground or whatever, what is a timeline here that looks reasonable, that we get to the actual work that needs to be done?
Well, if I'm going to speak specifically to Walnut Beach and Wildermere Beach, one of the things we talked about is putting new breakwaters in, groins. Now, just to give you an indication, there hasn't been a new breakwater put in this state in the last 30 years. So there's definitely a permitting process that's going to be a little difficult. But that's for the design teams to really say, what would be the best value for us to try to secure the beach fronts in these areas? So for me to step, I know that usually a certificate of permission can take anywhere from a month to 3 months. A full structures permit can take 6 months to a year.
And the issue here is that when we get the funds, you know, we get this is state funds, and then we go through hoops to get permitting to get it done. But here's the state giving us money, and then on the other end, they're prohibiting us by going through the permitting process that seems to take forever, and they know it needs to be done. We do all the studies. It just never seems to amaze me that the rhetoric that goes on and the paperwork that goes on until the final steps. But so we're looking 2 or 3 years out, probably, right?
I would hope that we're probably, you know, 3 to 6 months before we have a design team on board. We have to go through the process. One of the processes is coming before the board and getting authorization to accept the money. So we can't do anything until that happens. That's 30 days. I mean, but these are all the steps that you have to do. You know, you bring up the 2 different agencies, and that is one of the issues. You have 2 different agencies. You have an agency that's funding it, and you have an agency that's overseeing it. And they don't have the same agendas. And it is, I think anyone that's had to deal in this environment, there is a frustration level. It's one of the reasons why you try to hire a reputable firm that has relationships with the agencies affected, and hopefully we're going to get a project that will be productive for the citizens of Milford.
That's what is taking our landmark of the duck pond so long, too, getting it fixed in that process. Thank you.
Yep, and actually, since you brought that up, we're moving forward with that. We just signed a contract with the design team to do that, so we're optimistic that we will have some preliminary plans in early spring, and we'll be moving forward with that also.
Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, just to expand on Alderman Anderson's comment about the public session. Do we have a date or some dates that would possibly be coming up?
No, but I could call the folks at the Nature Conservancy to see if they have anything planned. I will do that and report back at the next meeting.
I would appreciate it. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, just one more question to follow up on Alderman Vitale. And more my area over at Crescent Beach and Woodmont, and really all these grants. I mean, if you add up the 3 agenda items, it's $825,000. That's quite a bit of money. But over my area, Woodmont, Crescent Beach, it's pretty clear what we need. I mean, you can walk to the wall, look down, and say we need a lot of sand. Yeah. So to pay $225,000 for a study to determine that, yeah, you guys need a lot of sand, it drives me nuts. So you're saying there's none of those funds could be used to actually get the work done, to kind of expand on Ray's point that we spent a lot of money on design stuff and very little is left over for actually any work getting done.
Well, I would echo your frustrations, Alderman Gurman. There is a lot of waste. You know, the old adage, common sense isn't all that common. In your area, you're 100% right. It is a practice of, hey, well, how do we put more sand on that beach? But if that's the simple answer, the real more detailed answer is the wave actions, the flows, and where is the sand going to move once you put it there, and how can you secure the sand on the beach? And that's where it gets expensive, because no one does it for free, and these are experts that are involved in it. And we want to do it once. I mean, when you think about it, City of Milford has the longest coastline in the state. We've lived here our whole lives, most of us. We've never really had to deal with this. It's really been an event since Sandy and Irene that we've really looked at it. We've had hurricanes before, but those were major events that people have now started to say, we need to do something. So in the short term, it doesn't seem like a lot's going on. I can tell you that the mayor's office has been very, very helpful in getting these funds, talking with both the state and the federal government, trying to get resources allocated. I'm very optimistic that as a whole, we're going to make a lot of progress in the next few years. But as you know, one of the issues you have at Crescent Beach is the component of private and public access. And that's going to be a hurdle on all these projects.
I know.
The other component, I just want to make sure people understand, this is a reimbursable grant, so we will get reimbursed 75% of the money. We have to fund it first, then get reimbursed. Yes.
Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Director Saley. Mr. Saley, I appreciate your time on this agenda item, and something just struck me, and I just want to be clear. Through this grant, the study, we're going to study how the coastline is eroding. We have private property beach right owners. Are they going to be subject to lot line adjustments after the results of this study? People that actually live on the beach and the sand is between them and the sound.
I would say the federal government's stance on this is before they fund construction, there has to be public access across the beach.
That's what you mentioned. We need to grant access. Can you just elaborate on that? Because I'm not understanding what you mean by granting access in order to receive federal funds.
Yes.
So can you give us, the board, an example of granting access?
Well, since I'm not a lawyer, I'm going to give that up to Mr. Burcham. The understanding I have, talking to the officials that I've dealt with, is there's different ways to do it. And I'll use Wildermere Beach as a classic example. There's a lot of property owners right now that the water actually goes right to their walls. So for us, say hypothetically, if we could replenish the beach in front of those for 25, 40, or 50 feet, they don't have it now. It's a public access now, so they're really not giving anything. I would anticipate some of what we're doing on some of these other projects, there would be an easement going across the property in one way, shape, or form. But I'm not an expert. I'm just telling you how it was explained to me.
So is that the underlying purpose for these public hearings or these public meetings, is to make the homeowners aware of granting access to federal access through the property?
I think that would be a component of it, but I also think the main reason is to talk to the residents and say, what are your concerns? I mean, the people live there every day. Where do you see the issues? You know, it's really bringing all the stakeholders together and figuring out, because there might be someone that really has a better idea that's lived there for 50 years, 60 years and said, why don't you do this? You know,
it sounds like the study's going to dictate what's going to happen. Yes. So there's going to be some people that aren't going to be happy based on what I'm hearing from you. I mean, if they're actually they might end up in a situation where it's going to be, they're going to be at a disadvantage where presently they may not be at this point.
I think most people that I speak with understand that where they're at, and that they would be grateful to see some support to get sand back on their beaches.
Okay.
Not everybody, but I think most people.
Right. Understood. Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8N.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the request for the City of Milford to accept the attached CDBG-DR planning grant for an in-depth study of coastal resilience for Crescent Beach and surrounding area, and to authorize the Mayor, Director of Community Development, Director of Public Works, and/or the City Attorney's Office to take all steps necessary, including signing all documents, to effectuate said grant.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 8O.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the request for the City of Milford to accept the attached CDBG-DR planning grant for an in-depth study of coastal resiliency for Gulf Street and Welch's Point Road, and to authorize the Mayor, Director of Community Development, Director of Public Works, and/or City Attorney's Office to take all steps necessary, including signing all documents, to effectuate said grant.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the Public Works Director. As I recall, Chris, the Board of Aldermen had approved design for a breakwater for Gulf Beach. Just where does that project stand?
So this area that we're referring to now, the Gulf Beach breakwater is approximately where, I won't call it a breakwater, but where there's some rocks now. They're looking to extend that about 160 feet. This is up right where Gulf Beach or Gulf Street and Welch's Point meet. There's a bluff there that's been getting undermined for a number of years, and we thought it was very, very important to at least get a study component and figure out how we can secure that area. It's a main throughway, passageway for the city, and it's definitely got an issue that if it continues, it will have an issue with it.
Could you share with me about the breakwater, however?
I'm sorry, when is it?
The breakwater, the plans for a breakwater?
Yes, yes.
Yes, that we had approved earlier this year, as I recall.
I can expand on that. The breakwater, the proposed breakwater is going to be located right in between the snack stand and the fishing pier. And it's not only the planning that we've approved money for, but actually the construction as well. The Flood and Erosion Commission identified an engineering firm. They're in the process right now of designing it. The issue, as Chris alluded to earlier, is that they have not, the state DEP has not approved a new breakwater or rock jetty in the last several years, if not several decades. So it's going to take some additional study and some additional greasing through the process for state permits and through the federal agencies. So it's going to be no easy task, but the money that we authorized has to be expended within 2 years. So the whole project, soup to nuts, unless there's an extension, the project should be done within 2 years.
Thanks for the update.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the information. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
There is no new business. Thank you, Mr. Saley, for your comments and your information. Agenda item 9, there is no new business. Moving on to agenda item 10, budget memo transfers. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the consideration of budget memo transfers number 1 and number 2, Fund 10, FY16.
The motion was made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli, agenda item 11.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the consideration of refunds in the amount of $14,087.43.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Agenda item number 12, reports of standing committees. Are there any reports? Alderman Susan Shaw.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Ordinance Committee met. We reviewed 3 ordinances originating from the Public Works regarding fee and license, resetting fees and licenses. The first one, an ordinance amending Chapter 20, Article 3, Division 2, Sections 20-72 through 20-80 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Milford, licenses and permits, was unanimously agreed on. And just as a quick overview, it increases contractor license fees for any work upon a public right-of-way from $15 to $25, and to increase from $2 to $50 the permit fee for such work. I'll put this in the form of a motion for approval.
Thank you, Alderman Shaw. Do we have a second? Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The second ordinance, which received approval unanimously from the board, was an ordinance amending Chapter 20, Article 2, Division 2, sections 20-44 through 20-58 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Milford permits. This was an ordinance, again, from the Public Works Department, setting permit fees for construction of any driveway, approach, or curb or sidewalk, or combined curb and gutter works at $25. I'd like to put this in form of a motion for approval.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The third ordinance, again from the Public Works, is an ordinance amending Chapter 23, Article 2, Division 2, Sections 23-35 and 23-36 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Milford, building sewers in connection. As in the past, this is restating the permit fees, in this case for connecting to public sewer. For residential, it's $5 to $25, and for commercial, from $20 to $50. I'd like to put this in the form of a motion for approval.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, can I? I'm sorry.
Alderman Shaw.
I just want to point out that item 4 in the ordinance was postponed.
Thank you, Alderman Shaw. Are there any more committee reports? Hearing none, are there any reports from any special committees? Hearing none. We'll go on. I'd like to recognize Alderman Greta Stanford at this point.
I just wanted to thank you, all of you, on both sides of the aisle, have been very respectful of me on the 4 years that I've been on this board. We may have had different opinions, but we came together. And I will always remember that it was really a pleasant time for me because I got to work with you and the mayor and to see what I could do about my constituents' concerns. Last night, my son called me. He was worried about me, what this defeat in this election, what this would do to me. And I said to him, Greg, I was brought up in poverty. My mother was abusive, and I never knew my father. And I survived that. When I was 9 years old, I was rushed to the hospital for life-threatening surgery and was in a coma for 2 months after that. It was surgery that would affect my whole life. And I survived that. And there were other incidents that I survived. And when I was pregnant with my son, I had not one, but 2 pulmonary embolisms. And I survived that. This defeat is just a bump in the road. I am a survivor. And my son said to me, yeah, Ma, but you know what you can do right now? Now you can think about all the times that you can run down and to the Board of Aldermen and give them hell. And I said, I think that's what I'll do. They better believe it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Stanford. It's been a pleasure working with you for the last 2 years, and I'm sure we're all going to miss you. Your knowledge has been shared by all, and I know we're going to miss that as well. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, before we do?
Alderman Anderson.
Under personal privilege, I just wanted to note for the record that my tardiness is as a result of it being open school night in New York City, and I met with parents all afternoon. So please excuse my absence earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Anderson. You were excused, but thank you. I'm sorry, was there a motion to adjourn? A motion was made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.